And I think the whole reason people get into this art form is because it's exciting. It's new and surprising. And if you're not excited and there's nothing new or surprising, then you just have success, which I guess is good if you want your ego validated, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not exciting. I'm in it for the art of it, not the, So when you're in it for the art, I feel like you almost have an obligation to keep pushing and challenging and questioning and, that worked then, but does that still work now? Is that old? People have seen us do that for 9 months. They still want to see it, and maybe I don't want to see it. So let's do something else.
Jaymie Parkkinen is an experienced improviser, clown, and teacher in Los Angeles. He has trained, performed, and taught all over the world. He is half of the improv duo The Park and co-host of the Comedy Fix podcast, a show dedicated to questioning the rules of performance. Jaimy and I met last summer during the Annoyance Intensive course and met again at Sweden Improv Festival in Uppsala. In this episode, we are talking about the importance of doing what you want from the beginning, to trust that nothing needs to happen, and to just build, heightening, and explore. We are talking about surprise, simplicity, and repetition, about emotions, and to have an authentic relationship with the audience and going further, faster. We are also talking about the lab, duo, and to not do the bullshit you don't enjoy. Sometimes I do get the question which of all episodes I enjoy most, and I'd say that this one is definitely in the top. This is episode 82 with Jaymie Parkkinen on finding your own voice.
A lot of things that have been top of mind for me are everybody feels like they're doing the same thing. There's a lot of formulas out there, and people are getting stuck in their head, and people are not playing and having that much fun doing improv because they're doing the work of improv. So trying to get people to say fuck the rules a little bit and play a little bit more, because why are we doing this if not to have fun? So I think a lot about that and kind of just breaking the rules a little bit, getting away from the training centers, and kind of exploring your own preferences rather than trying to do somebody else's preferences of improv. So I don't know if that's a specific topic.
That's a great topic, and immediately I start to think about that, and where to begin. Should you begin learning the rules and then break them, or just begin and play by lust and then
That's what I
discover the rules? Yeah, that the second one.
The second one, yeah. I have this argument. It turns into an argument always with basically everybody, because I'm like, it doesn't make sense to learn the rules to then break the rules. Why? Just do what inspires you, and who cares about the rules? Just what's inspiring, what's exciting to you, and then pursue that rather than, this is how you do a scene. Now I'm going to learn how to not do a scene and do what I want to do. Why don't you just do what you want to do from the beginning? It's like it's the long way to the same destination, and I don't think this long way benefits us. You learn all these rules that you then disagree with and don't ever use again because you don't like them. I don't know. There has to be a new way to do things, I think. Some way where you can get the benefit of some of the rules. You learn stage presence. You learn the language of improv. You learn about yes and. You can learn some of the fundamentals, but without getting caught up in the rules and the structures. So you learn some of the basics of how to stand on a stage and present to an audience and to have confidence, What
are the basics then? What can we practice on if we want to rehearse improv?
It's a great question. I would say it's a great question. Because I've thought about this a lot, and I think trusting that nothing has to happen. You can go on stage and you don't need to force anything. You can just respond to what's going on in the room. So if you're going on stage and you're nervous, use that nervousness and start building on that somehow. So what's an exercise? I don't really know what an exercise is because I actually don't. This is kind of a new concept that I've never put on its feet. It's just kind of what I believe about improv. But I think it's important to teach people how to listen to themselves and build on what they're feeling. Because a lot of times we have a feeling and we try to shut it down. So rather than shutting it down when you're on stage, explore it. So how to get people to do that, I don't know exactly, but I don't think yes and tag outs are the way to do it. I think it's more an internal dialogue with yourself. That's why I like clown work a lot, because clowning is a lot about your internal exploration and how you communicate what's going on in here to everybody in the audience. So that conversation between what I'm feeling and what the audience is feeling is the show. And so I kind of like that better, but I don't want to be a clown. I want to be an improviser, but I think clown does performance training better than improv does, I think, currently.
You know what kind of? I just take a few workshops and classes in clowning. Then and then it also broaden up. Like we're really listening in the now, whoever you talks to in everyday life.
Yeah, being present.
Yeah, it's a lot of presence. It sounds, and also vulnerability in that matter. Like actually, say what you feel in the moment. Are you familiar with circling? It's like social meditation where you mirror each other, or you're like saying what's happened. You're telling your internal process to the other person, and that person responds of what they are feeling or noticing right in this moment, and then you just bounce off each other. It's a meditation practice.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think things like that are in a good direction. Like, I don't think we should start with necessarily even getting on a stage. Maybe we should start with exercises like that where you're just learning how to understand what you're feeling and learning how to observe what other people are feeling and just communicate that clearly. I think maybe that's a good way to start. Because, yeah, and there's a lot of different kinds of clown, and some of it is terrible. But I think the kind of clown that interests me is the kind where you're learning to, the thing that we always do as improvisers, which is to come in with an idea for a scene or a character, to get rid of that. We don't want to see your idea. We want to see you. We want to see who you are. We want to see what your experience, and giving that authentic kind of experience. So like I said, if I'm coming on stage and I'm genuinely nervous, use that rather than pretending to be a confident doctor, because that's immediately bullshit, because it's inauthentic, because you're not a confident doctor. You're a nervous performer. So be a nervous performer. And from that, you get an authentic connection with the audience, because you're not telling them to believe in something fake. Because right now I see a nervous performer. We feel that you're nervous. So now we can play with that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, look I'm in a kitchen making a cake. Okay.
Yeah.
But who cares?
But can't you use like the nervous performer setting to be like a nervous doctor?
Potentially. Yeah.
To base the doctor on truth, like the truth is, and I have to perform some kind of operation maybe, so I'm in the same setting, almost like a mapping, like it's the same situation, but instead of, because else it feels like it would become a lot of different, like the same pattern occurring again and again, because it's, of course you might be nervous if you go out on stage. So the start of the feeling is always nervousness in a sense, or
it could be excitement.
Yeah.
It could be, I'm mad because I just got a parking ticket outside, so I'm going to use that energy.
Of course.
So it could be nervousness. That's probably a common place for us to start.
Yeah, but so just so I don't misinterpret you, that you don't mean that you're supposed to be so true that you actually always say like, I'm a nervous performer on the stage. Because what happened yesterday when I saw your show together with Liam, in the park, which was really great, and I really, really enjoyed it. You did meta improv as well, like with the space work, naming the objects, and really played with it. It was no like prestige in it. It was just fun and goofiness, and really fun. But like, is that a pattern that you often reoccur?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what your question. What pattern?
If you base everything on truth, like what you're feeling right now.
It's a great question. So there's two opposites. One is complete, pure authenticity, and one is complete bullshit theatricality. where nothing is real, and then on the other side, everything is real. I think the ideal performance lives somewhere in the middle.
Like a Venn diagram.
Exactly. Exactly. Because if it's just pure truth and reality, it's not that fun or theatrical, because right now, you and I having a real truthful conversation, I don't know that I would want to watch this on stage. Hopefully your listeners like to listen to this. But if you're just purely true, I mean, we see that all the time, you know? And so I think when you do theater, you need to push it a little bit more into the theatrical, heighten things a little bit, play a little bit more. So yeah, you can start out with your nervous energy, and then you can be a nervous doctor.
Yeah.
Because that's the theatricality, but you're coming from an authentic origin.
You base your choices from that authentic
Right.
situation or feeling or thought that you have in the moment, and then you just spin off it.
Exactly. And you follow an inspiration. So rather than coming with like, oh, I want to be a doctor in this scene.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of hand movements, which is not good for your listeners. But if I want to be a doctor in this scene, and then I feel nervous, I should be a nervous doctor. I would say don't even come in with the idea of a doctor, because then you're already getting trapped in bullshit. Come in with nervousness and discover what your job is. If you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, if you're a cop, you know, like let that be discovered. Let the label and the context be discovered, but start from an authentic core, an authentic place. Because that discovery, I think, is what improv is missing a lot of. We come in with a manufactured, preconceived idea, and so there's no discovery. It's one reason I don't really like the Herald as a form, because you tell the audience basically everything that they're about to see, and then you show it to them. It's like, where's the discovery? Where's the surprise? Where's the excitement? Where's the danger? Where's the risk? We kind of eliminate all that by telling the audience what they're about to see and then showing them that, which is okay, but I think it lacks excitement. It lacks surprise and discovery, which I think is why improv is such a beautiful art form. You know, if you wanted to create the perfect story, you should write a book. You should write a film script or something like that. But if you want to discover and be surprised, I think improv is the art form. So it's, I get why people do it, because they're looking for success. They want laughs. They want the audience to like their show. So they're looking for these shortcuts and these easy formulas to get there. But I think in doing that, in getting this quote unquote success, this laughter, we lose the joy of what the art form actually is at its core, which is surprise, discovery, spontaneity, unplanned, you know, joy, I think. So I don't know. I wish we would do less forms and less formulas for comedy and rather, or improv in general, and just discover ourselves and show that to the audience.
But isn't that like, wouldn't you argue that your yesterday show also has a form?
I don't think so. I mean, we don't feel like we have a form. Did you see a form within it?
It does. It depends on what you mean with a form, but like some kind of a frame. If the frame might be we discover whatever there is, and we heighten it, and we repeat it until like it becomes no fun or enjoyment for either us or the audience anymore. That might not be a form, but like a mental framework that you both share in a sense. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we have some. I don't know what the word is. The form doesn't feel like the right word, but maybe there are some principles or some stylistic choices.
Exactly. So it's more like
style.
Style.
Yeah,
a way of playing,
right,
which you both agree with, and that style is that more or less actually everything, anything, and everything can. You can use props if you want to. You might play with the audience as you did yesterday, like a little kid, a guy joined you on the stage, for instance, like, and you were open for that. And of course, all the mistakes and everything that happens in the rooms you embrace. And that I really agree, so much joy, and because it's really points on that this is improvised, this is happening right now.
Yeah.
It can be, if you do like a very structured format, that you lose some of that.
Yeah.
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 I was thinking also, Jaymie, that like I don't have any better analogy than like exercising at the gym and like doing basic, really core basic exercises like deadlifts, and because I guess you have the same references of training at a gym or something.
Yes.
Because you look strong.
Oh, thank you.
Deadlifts and squats and bench press maybe and pull-ups. For instance, those 4 exercises. If you do them, or like weightlifting exercises as well. So, and I try to find, speaking of how we practice improv, like the thing that is in the improv world, and I'm always like wobbling in what I think is that like drilling platform, or like being heavy on the premises, finding funny ideas, which contradict what you say, or is it to like just be present and discover and practice these skills to really listen, and maybe then to meditate, because then I need to like reform my whole improv practice.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to how should I practice improv?
Well, to extend your gym metaphor, you can lift weights at the gym, but you can also take a yoga class. You know, you can go out and play tennis with a friend or go for a run in the park.
Yeah.
Like, you can supplement the drills with a little bit more free-form, fun, playful exercises as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then it depends if you want to win Mr. Olympia, where you're supposed to be the biggest, really muscly, and they, because they are only like practicing really isolated muscles, then, or if you want to be a strong man, then you might lift more functional weights in a way, or if you want to run a marathon, of course. So practice as you play. So then, if you want to. Yeah, so that's just your personal view, of course, that improv, because improv can be so much. It can be like a very structured Harold where you are supposed to find funny ideas. Okay, I'm the nervous doctor, or I'm a doctor. I want to be a doctor in this scene. Or you can play it more discovery. So is that like then really find the why, or find the, or how did you begin in these questions? Like, when did they arise in you?
I love this conversation. I think because there's no right answer. If you like the Herald, by all means, do the Herald. Like, that's not for me, but if that's fun for you. But I think that's the question: is what is fun? Are you having fun doing it? Are you having fun being Mr. Olympia and doing the deadlifts, or do you hate your life but you want to win a medal? It's like, is that really why you're doing improv? Is because you want to win something? You want to be the, you want to. Maybe some people do. I know a lot of people who go into improv because they want to get on a TV show. That's their goal. They're using improv as a stepping stone to get somewhere further in the entertainment business. Fair enough. But if you're doing improv because you love it and it's a beautiful art form, which it is, then what's fun for you? Don't use it as, it's not a tool to be used for something else. It is the product. So, what's fun for you? So I just ask that question of whoever is, if you're trying to figure out what exercises or what drills or what to focus on, is what gets you excited. Does it feel like math and homework, or does it feel like fun and play? I think, why are we doing anything other than fun and play with our free time? So that's kind of how I think about it, and that's kind of what brought me to where I am now. I did all the training centers. I went to all the schools in LA and Chicago and New York. I've really done everything I can in the United States in terms of like going to training centers and schools and the programs and learning the different forms. And
Did you enjoy them?
no,
Why did you do them then?
because I loved improv. But I could never really connect with a school or a training center or a philosophy. Nothing spoke to me. I would get little glimpses here and there of fun, or, oh, that was a fun moment. Why was that fun? But the training centers never did it for me. So I was always on a quest to try to like, well, what's my voice? What's my perspective on improv? What do I want to do? And just kind of, meeting some other like-minded people who are willing to go off the script of, training centers. Then you go to then you get on Herald Night, and then you, become a UCB performer, and then you work on a cruise ship. Like, what's the point? It's more like, what speaks to me, what excites me about this art form, when am I having the most fun in it? And I feel like just a lot of people don't really ask themselves that question. They just want laughs, and if they don't get laughs, they want to learn how to get laughs. And that's okay, but there's so much more to it than just getting a thin laugh because you did a funny wordplay,
Mm.
you know? So I don't know. It's all very gray and it's not very black and white. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that's how I got to where I am now is I just didn't like any of the training centers. I didn't like the rules. I didn't like the structures because it didn't feel like me. So I was always just trying to find my voice in improv and find like what connected with me. And, you know, you take a little from this class, you take a little from that teacher, and then you just meet some like-minded people and then you kind of can lock in and develop a very specific style, which is what I feel like I've done with, you know, my performance partner, Liam, and our director and friend in Los Angeles, Chris Alvarado. He's great. We kind of all see the art form the same way. It's about inspiration. It's about exploration and surprise and discovery. And so with those shared beliefs, then we kind of go into the laboratory of a rehearsal and try to like figure out like, what is this? Oh, that locked in. What was that? How do we replicate that? Do we want to replicate that? Or was that just of the moment, you know? But it's never about form. It's never about structure. It's always about inspiration and what gets you excited. And that might change. What gets me excited, like Liam and I have had a really fun 9-month run at a theater in Los Angeles, kind of doing very similar shows week after week. And I was just talking to him the other day. I'm like, I think we're kind of ready to move on to like, what's next? Like we found inspiration. It was super fun. It was very successful. We loved those shows, but it's like, let's keep pushing. Let's never get complacent or relax. Let's always keep challenging ourselves and building and trying to press new buttons and new discoveries. So even when you find success, don't let that make you complacent and like, okay, we found the thing, now we're done. You're never done. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's just a constant ongoing process until I'm dead.
Yeah. Have you been here before, like that you enjoy how you play? Or does it feel like now we found something that we want to?
I have felt strong moments, flashes of really exciting improv that I've been a part of. But a couple of things happened. One is I wasn't that good, you know, years ago. And so I was trying to find my voice, but I wasn't good enough to execute my voice, my vision. I wasn't good enough at performing in order to do what it is in my brain I wanted to do. You know, there was a disconnect between my taste level and what got me excited and what I could actually performatively execute on a stage.
Yeah.
So that gap made it like, oh, I can get flashes of it, but I didn't live up here.
But you knew what your taste was. Like, I mean, you knew what you wanted to do.
I think so for the most part. Some things have come and gone, but some principles have remained the same. And a lot of those principles are things like simplicity, repetition.
Very clowny.
Yeah, it could be clowny. I guess I do think it is clowny because it's universal. It doesn't rely on cultural references or witty language play.
Right.
We're just repeating the same thing over and over again. It doesn't matter where you're from. You see that the pattern is the same, right?
Yeah.
So when you simplify it, it becomes universal, which is very powerful.
It's true, yeah.
So we like simplicity. I say we because I think Liam and I agree on this, but I'll just speak for myself, I guess. I like simplicity. I love patterns. And I love pushing things farther than they should go. So a lot of times, we have the rule of threes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, you do something 3 times and then you stop. Fuck the rule of threes. Like, well, who made that up? What? I don't even understand the rule of threes, to be honest. So we just keep going and going and going. And then once you think we should stop, we still keep going. And then that becomes funny because it's like you should have stopped, but you're still going with that same thing, even though it was a bad idea when you started and you're still going. Then it becomes a good idea because it becomes so absurd that you're still doing something for so long that it starts to work. So simplicity, repetition, and then continuing something past the point of you should have stopped 5 minutes ago, but you're still going, which makes it fun.
Nice.
Yeah. So because it's kind of, you're breaking the rules of what you should be doing. Oh, you should stop after you do it 3 times.
Right.
So we do it 50 times. And then it's like, oh yeah, it becomes boring because you've seen it 10 times now. Oh, but then it becomes funny again. And you kind of go on this roller coaster of like, oh, are they still doing it? Okay, fine. I'm going to check my phone. Oh, they're still doing it? I'm like, why are they still doing it? You know, it's like this back and forth where it's like, you let the audience go on a roller coaster of not just laughter, but of discomfort because of, or almost annoyance. But eventually you get them back.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to keep pushing past that place of like, oh, the audience doesn't like this anymore, but we're going to do it until they do.
Yeah.
And then the audience gets a really fun experience of like, I hated that 5 seconds ago and now I love it. And I think it's a really fun transformation to take the audience on. But it just requires a lot of trust in your scene partner, trust in yourself, and kind of just, you have to be a little smarter than the audience. The audience doesn't always know what they want. So if you stop when an audience thinks they're done, this is a dangerous thing to say because this could easily be misinterpreted. But if you stop when the audience wants you to stop, chances are the audience is wrong because the audience will pull the plug and stop something sooner than I think it should be stopped. Because I don't think an audience knows what they want a lot of times, in my opinion. And I don't want
to... in an improv setting, which you can speak really from as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely in an improv setting because, it's all being made up on the spot. And so the audience just doesn't... This is a hard thing to say because it has to be done carefully because you can push an audience away. They don't like what you're doing and you're never going to get them back because what you're doing wasn't something they liked in the first place. But if they start by liking something and they stop liking something, then you can get them back.
Okay.
So I think that's maybe a good way to frame that.
Yeah.
Because if you start with something they don't like, chances are they might not like it ever.
But doesn't that become fun? Or like if you do repeat that, or will that just be annoying or disturbing for the audience? Like if you're controversial, of course, on the stage, I'm not saying that. But if you do something that doesn't get laugh and you repeat it, then probably it will get and they will enjoy it. And then it will probably don't do it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's true. I guess it's hard to say because sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, the audience didn't like this, and so I should stop. Maybe sometimes that is the best call. Like if you're doing something gross or offensive, chances are you're not going to win them over. But if you're doing something dumb, then I think you can win them over.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so take big risk and do something. Put yourself in the dirt.
Yeah,
say that.
Yeah, make yourself look dumb.
Yeah,
be dumb, be stupid.
Yeah,
and I think the audience will eventually come around and appreciate it. If you're being offensive or gross, I don't know that the audience will develop an appreciation for that.
But Jaymie, would you say that or do you think that you would be able to do the show that you did yesterday without have been going through the UCB? We did the Annoyance Intensive together last summer and met there. So, and I'm very glad that you're here in Uppsala now during the Sweden Improv Festival and to see you again.
Thank you.
It's very nice. But would you say that you would be able to do the show or play as you do without have been going through the schools? It's hard, I guess, to answer that because that's another future. But
yeah,
like I don't know how another improv journey would have been looked, because now you're speaking compared to what we said before, like just go for lust and do what you enjoy. Because that spoke to me like don't see it as a school or like, man, because I have that thought in my head like I need to suffer also to learn.
Yeah,
so we all sense. But I can hear that you also did, like you went through the different systems or schools and just trying to grasp what they are teaching and using them as a tool or just as something to stimulate from what do I like or don't like. Yeah, so like if you are practical or realistical with the other way, you think, where is Liam? Like, what's his background?
He's very similar. He's taken a lot of classes at all the schools in LA. And, he did a lot of college improv when he was a student in school. I'll say this.
Yeah.
I got nothing from the training centers except for a nice vocabulary of things that I don't like. So I didn't really learn from the training centers, but I did learn from the teachers at the training centers. Yeah. When the teachers go off script and they start talking about what they're passionate about and what their beliefs are, that's when I learned stuff. I didn't learn stuff from the curriculum. I didn't learn stuff from the syllabus. I learned stuff from the passionate teachers who spoke about what got them excited. And sometimes I agree with them, sometimes I didn't. But that passion, and when they're actually speaking authentically about what they believe, not what they're told to say in a classroom, that's when I think the learning happened for me.
Yeah.
So I think, training centers should have less curriculum and let the teachers go off script a little bit. 'Cause it is improv, so you should be off script. But I think that's when, that's what got me excited about the art form, is to talk to other people who are passionate and to hear their perspective, because everybody does have a slightly different perspective and no one's really right or wrong about it. It's just kind of what makes sense to you. But the training centers never made sense to me because they're businesses, they're trying to sell you shit. And they're trying to keep you in classes. So they try to give you a formula, learn the formula, and then maybe one day you'll be on our stage. But to me, that's capitalism. That's not improv. Improv happens when you're talking to people and you dissecting these ideas like we are now. This is way more fun than any class I've ever taken, just having this conversation. So, could I have gotten here without the training centers? You're right. It's hard to say because it's a different universe, because that's not what happened. But I will say that I don't really think I got anything from them.
Exactly. So, but probably you have, maybe not like as a performer, but like a lot of connection, like other things, because else...
Yeah, it's not factors.
Yeah, because I've never met an improviser that doesn't have like run through like some kind of workshops or like practicing some kind of improv in some training center or whatever, or like that also have like really got improv bidden and like how can I become better, and then you scout for different ways to do that, and then you end up at the training center doing workshop for people that are improv famous,
right,
to learn there. But I totally also agree what you're saying, that it's not the curriculum, it's the teach. It's so, and the group in itself.
Sure.
Very, very much. And I remember when we, in Chicago, when we met, that you spoke about, because I was curious about UCB and the curriculum and these questions, like how is it? And then you told me about, I don't remember the teacher's name, but who were like more talking about UCB form, like different contrasting energies.
Yeah.
Like, where like maybe it was a meditate setting, like everything was very calm. Yes, contrast that with high energy then or whatever, and that will become the first unusual thing. And this is just concept to dissect it later when we analyze it. But like, how can we approach it in another way?
Yeah.
That doesn't make it a mathematical problem or something to solve or put in the head in a sense. It's just go with your feeling.
Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah, the teacher was talking about game as two competing energies in the same space.
And that teacher went off script from the curriculum?
100%. Because I liked him. I took his class at UCB and I liked him. And so with my group, we brought him in as a coach to help us. And then we just went off the UCB script and we talked about, not necessarily UCB game, but game as a comedic principle, more broadly speaking, beyond just UCB.
What's fun, or
what's fun? How do you create comedy? What is the essence of what makes something funny? Not necessarily what improv is, but what makes something funny? Like all these training centers, they're just teaching different styles. They're not teaching improv because you don't need to be taught improv because we're improvising right now. Improv is organic and natural, but they're teaching their style of improv.
Yeah. Pretty structured.
It's way structured.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I happen to know some of the people who wrote the UCB manual. And, that was written, 20 years ago or something. And even now, they're like, there's a lot of things in there that I disagree with today. So it's, when you codify something, when you write it down, it makes it feel like it's authoritative and permanent. But this whole art form is evolving every day. So it feels almost immediately irrelevant as soon as you write something down and kind of lock it in, because the art form is constantly changing. If anything, it feels like a time capsule. Like this was improv in 1995. It's like, fine, but now it's 2024. Does that help me much? Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, so we hired this teacher to help our group, and the way he explained game and comedy theory really spoke to me. And yeah, it's like you're saying, it's two different competing energies. So you're in a meditation room and everybody's trying to get enlightened, and then, somebody lets out a big fart. It's like two competing energies. Oh, holy meditation and then embarrassing bodily functions. So it's like the highest aspirations of human existence, meditation and world peace, and then mixed with somebody farting in class. It's like just those two competing energies, that's comedy. And I think that's probably a very good sound theory, but I don't know that I always apply it. Because there's, I think repetition is the way to get to comedy.
Yeah.
That doesn't that doesn't, it's not game in that sense because it's not two competing tones, but it's repetition to absurdity. It's comedy through nonsense and absurd behavior.
Yeah. But as you said before, like the simplicity of it becomes more universal. Because I found that very funny. Do you think people in general like is it possible to make everyone laugh?
It's a good question. I don't know about everyone, but I think you could probably get 90 to 95% of a room if you play simply and kind of with, things that are generally understood. The references have to be generally understood. So we know, people are not supposed to repeat the same dumb thing over and over again. We just know that's inappropriate. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But when you do it anyway, it's like, oh, I understand that there's a rule being broken here. There's a social rule being broken that's pretty universal, I think, probably to most people and cultures. And so, that creates that universal comedy. When you touch on human universals,
Exactly.
rather than
Also,
cultural references, abstract concepts, or things that you thought would be funny, when you're just talking about human behavior and human existence, and when you have, the nervous performer, that's universal. Everybody has been
emotions,
nervous when they perform. Everybody has.
And contrasting emotions as well.
Yeah.
Or unexpected reactions.
Yeah, emotions are a human universal.
Yeah.
Bodily functions are a human universal. That's why you see them so much in comedies, because everybody eats, pees, poops. Everybody understands that reference base. And so...
But doesn't that, like, in the simplicity makes you, like, simplify things. So that's also, in a way, doesn't that, like, not limit your choices, but like that you end up in taking the same choices. So it's also like narrowing the improv possibilities in a sense. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't think so, because, you take that simple nugget that you started with, but you can apply that to any context, So like last night's show, we had the simple repetition of
the door?
Yeah, the door.
Or when you're just opener, it was a very nice opening as well.
Yes.
And you presented the show with one voice, two people, one voice.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Because if the abstract concept is, oh, we're just going to say the same thing at the same time. That's what we're repeating. That's the simple concept that we're doing. That's kind of funny, because why would people say everything at the same time? But then you can say anything, right? And so you can play that game a million different ways, because the kernel is the same. We're saying the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
But your choices are unlimited.
Right.
So the more simple the game, I think, the more ways you can play it. If your game is complicated and intellectual, you're very limited and narrow, I think.
So, but the way to challenge yourself as an improviser, for me anyway, is to be more complicated, I think, to make it harder. So how can you make it harder but make it simpler as well?
What do you mean by make it harder?
Make it harder for yourself, maybe to make big choices, and when I say make it harder, so it's easier to be on stage by yourself and introduce the show. It's harder to speak at the same time. It's harder to speak at the same time and doing the same moments at the same time. It's harder to make it, and to also maybe to find patterns. Like you did, it felt like Liam or you did like an alphabetical pattern as well. Like you like a pattern within the pattern.
Yeah.
In a sense, and he or your framed, someone of you framed, and then you justified it by you did the Swedish alphabet, so which was a great justification. And now I'm very analytical about it. It was just a discovery in the moment. But that is, for me, making it harder, making it more complex, putting yourself in the dirt. Like we have the pattern of speaking at the same time, but we also have the pattern, or I'm trying to make, like I discovered the pattern that the first word that I said began on A, and the second one you said began on B, and then I'm doing the C, and you D, and so on.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, is making it hard, but it's also more complex.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. It's I think it's important to start simply. I'll say that. I don't think you have to keep it simple, but you need to start simply because it's important that the audience can follow you.
Yeah.
If you start with something complicated, the audience is already trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
As opposed to if you make it idiot-proof, any idiot can understand what's going on. And if the audience is with you when you start, then you can slowly build on this absurd world until it's insane.
Yeah.
Because you took the audience the whole way with you. So that's the exciting part is you take that audience on that whole trip. We're like, oh, they started by saying things at the same time. Then they started a wordplay. Then one person messed up. Then they justified it. Then they got back into the word. If the audience can follow that whole trajectory, it can become very complicated.
Yeah.
But
the audience are with you.
They're with you. And they understand the whole universe.
Yeah. So have you seen the movie Parasite from 2000? I think that's a great example of this. Like it begins very like relatable and very like normal world, and it ends very absurd.
Yeah.
And we are on why it, like we understand why it ends like it ends. But if you just would have jumped into the movie in the end, you would be like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly. Yeah, you can take the audience anywhere to crazy, absurd places, but you have to take them each step of the way. You can't jump too far or make too many assumptions because you'll lose some of the audience because maybe some people weren't paying attention. They missed something. They don't understand that reference, and then they're lost. As opposed to if you start simply, everybody's on the same page. You start with the universal. Everybody gets it. Now we're invested because we understand.
Yeah, and so that's a skill then to gradually like, I don't know if make it more complex, but escalate it or make it harder. That's a skill of how to do that, and in a nice, like go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5.
Yes,
that's like 1 to 10. Yeah, heightening. That's right. The heightening skill. So, and if you want to, I'm so in the mode of practicing it because I have time to rehearse and practice. Like I want to practice improv, and I'm just thinking all the time of how I could do that. So how would you do that?
Well, you got to take my workshop.
Nice. I will.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
How would you do that? Start simply. Start simply. That's why I don't like starting with who, what, where, because that's already too much information. Start with.
Okay, for me that's let's simplify it in a sense, knowing the who, what, where.
I don't think so, because a lot of times none of that matters. And so now you've given the audience information that's irrelevant. Because if you're a nervous doctor, we don't need to know that you're in a hospital and that you're operating on a baby and that your wife divorced you this morning.
No.
Nervous doctor, that's enough. That's enough. And we'll see that nervous doctor's life and we'll pick up the rest as we go along as needed. But when you start with all that stuff, now the audience is kind of like, you put them in their head and you put yourself in your head. So I would say, start simply with, minimal basic information and then find a pattern. What excites you? Like what mistake just happened? That's when you have to be present.
Yeah.
And then that's how you start to build because the audience saw that same mistake. They saw that same moment that you just did.
Yeah.
And so when you build on that, the audience is with you because they also observed it. And so now we're also building on the same place, discovering the show together, which is the magic of improv.
Yeah.
Is that we're not showing you the show. We're all experiencing the show collectively. When the audience member gets on stage and starts yelling with Liam like crazy people, like, we didn't plan that. I had no idea. I didn't even know what was going on. So,
but there's a very big difference. Just to say that we're not showing a show. We are giving, what did you say? People an experience. So we are showing.
Yeah, we're experiencing it together.
We are experiencing together.
Yeah.
I guess that might be a saying or so, but it's just, it was a nice take on it. Yeah, sorry.
No, thank you. I mean, that's the magic of improv. It's like if you wanted to show somebody a show, write a play and then show it to somebody. But if you want to experience it and unravel it all together and have that collective experience with the performers and the audience, which is the power and magic of improv, then you have to be present in the moment. And I think the way to be present is to keep things simple. Because as soon as you start making it complicated for the audience, it's also complicated for the performers. You can see people in their heads trying to figure it out and nobody's having a good time, the audience nor the performers. So it's like, what are we doing here? What the fuck is going on? Let's just keep it simple, be present, build on a fun pattern that we established, take it past where we should have. We should have stopped 5 minutes ago, but we're still doing the same thing. Take the audience on that whole ride along the way. And then once we feel like it's done, new scene.
Yeah. But don't you want to, like, how can you be in the, let's speak about I don't know, maybe like a green zone and then a red zone, which is too complicated, put in your head, use and improvise to the audience as well. In the orange, preferably, I want to be in the orange all the time. I don't want to feel safe in a one way. If you like, I want to have the tickling feeling of not knowing where this should go. And if I'm in the green zone, it's too easy, or like I'm knowing now what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get in the red zone. Maybe I can just jump quickly and then back, because it's like then it's scary. And I also like to see brave improvisers on stage doing scary things together, or like subjective scary, whatever it can be, like singing or putting your like that. But how can you then keep yourself in the orange zone? That's I guess the same question, maybe to heighten it in a good way, or like you get what I'm saying?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by the red zone. You mean it's confusing and chaotic?
The red zone for me is the thing when you said like we don't want the audience or the improvisers to be like oh, what the fuck, like a math problem solving that is too hard. You are like in numbers and symbols that you have never encountered before, and it's just too much.
I would say, because it depends. If you start simply and build step by step, I don't think the audience will ever be confused. Because if you're authentically building step by step and not trying to be clever or inject something that you thought would be funny, if you're really being present and following the pattern and the audience is seeing that same pattern, they'll be with you when you're going nuts.
Yeah.
And maybe if somebody walked in from the bathroom and they missed 5 minutes of the show, they'd be like, what is going on? I don't understand anything. But that's because they missed, that's a different thing. So I feel like you'll never get to that red zone in a bad way.
But the red zone in the end of the show. Now we are using our hands a lot, but like in the end of the zone, it's a red zone, but it's not red zone when you are there, because then it's orange, because you have taken the other zones to be there.
If anything, it's probably the green zone.
Yeah,
exactly. Nothing's complicated. We all understand it. We all experience it together.
Yeah.
And assuming that your audience was paying attention to your show, everybody's there with you.
Yeah. But it's so hard to not. I think it anyway, and I want to ask you, because it feels like you know what could have been said right now to get a laugh, or like do you get the idea still? Like I know what I could say to like shoehorn in something, or like say something that will get a laugh, but it will do that to the cost of the present that it puts you in the head. Or can you, like, if you missed the opportunity to say it, that would be perfect to say it now, but I missed it. Do you keep it, or like say it, shoehorn in it, or how do you handle that? Or do you get these ideas, or are you just present all the time?
Yeah, I rarely get those ideas. To me, I'm really trying to be as present as possible in the moment and just literally respond to what is happening right now. Not, oh, that's a funny line. If I have a funny idea for a line, then I say it right then and there. Like, I don't hold on to it.
Yeah.
It just comes out.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't funny, that's okay too. You know, you just keep moving. But I'm very present, and I'm not like planning anything.
But if you're on the sideline doing a show with a team or a group?
Honestly, those shows are really difficult. It's hard for me to perform in a group. I really love performing in a duo because it's pure presence, it's pure play. As soon as you have people on the sideline or the back line, it gives them a time to get into their heads.
Exactly.
It makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
So a lot of times if I'm working in a group, I'll try to kind of just be as dumb as possible. Or if a scene's already going on, I'll just try to be dumb and create a dumb pattern over the scene. So like if someone's having a breakup at a restaurant or whatever, like I'll be the dumb waiter who comes in with a bit that just keeps going. So I'm going to still play my dumb, simple, repetitive style. That doesn't take away from what they're doing. It just adds a little fun idiocy to their beautiful breakup scene and their good acting. So it kind of, you have the heartbreak and you have the stupid pattern play at the same time, which is, I think, the magic is when you can have both of those.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of times in a group, I like to like kind of play a second tier character. Like I don't always like to like start scenes or be in every scene. I'd like kind of hang out and like, oh, how can I add some dumb to this? How can I make this a little stupider? Like this, I don't know, change the tone in the room. But yeah, my favorite is duo work because I feel like you can go so hard and so deep, and I just feel like that's where all the magic happens. Because if you think about it, a lot of scenes are just two-person scenes anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, the rest of the people are kind of just there, and maybe trying to find a use for themselves, so they add some background thing or, they're thinking of their next idea. But I feel like improv at its juiciest is with two people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen good group shows. There's nothing against them, but I just feel like the most exciting stuff I've seen has been duo work. Because I think that's when people really push the boundaries. I feel like in groups, people play a little slower and a little safer.
But for instance, let's say it's a group and they do like a cat cradle or something where everyone is on the stage at the same time, or very like freeform organic, or like just well, I don't know if this is a format then, but like everyone on the stage at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you are free to go. Yeah, yes, your idea with Liam, but it's you and like three other people doing the same thing. You're five doing the same word. Like, wouldn't that be also more and more? Wouldn't that be fun?
It could be. It could be fun.
If you manage to find like,
you should try that during the mixtape show.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be fun. But I think as soon as you add more bodies on stage, it becomes more complicated for the audience. And I'm trying to keep things simple because as soon as there's more bodies, now there's more faces I'm looking at. Is everybody on the same page? Oh, that person did it slightly differently.
It's true.
So
you have to do very
Yeah, the two-person keeps it focused and tight.
And why you're not doing a solo show is because
I feel like I can't discover as much. There's not as much surprise when I'm by myself because I know myself and I know what I'm thinking. I don't know what Liam's thinking. So together, he and I can surprise each other into fun places, whereas I myself couldn't surprise myself that much because I kind of know where I'm going. And it's hard to break through my own brain. But the two-person, there's just enough surprise and it's small enough that you can keep it simple and tight, but also surprising in discovery,
Yeah.
I think that's how I look at it.
It's just you need to find the balance also because you do need to know the other person. And I guess because else the most fun would have been when you and Liam didn't know each other at all and then you started to play. But now you get his references a little bit more. And since you have done a lot of shows with him already. And if it's like just a thought experience like in 20 years. You, Liam, still doing the same. Like TJ and A, for instance, like it feels like they know, and I'm not sure if they are still surprising each other that much.
I don't feel like they are. It feels like they kind of just doing the same thing they've been doing and they kind of know. I feel like that's the challenge with being an old veteran player is a lot of people get complacent.
And what's that, complacent?
Complacent, meaning like they get comfortable and they stop pushing themselves. They stop exploring. They stop challenging themselves. They're like, oh, this works for us. This is our thing. And like I was saying earlier, Liam and I kind of found that like 9 months ago, we kind of locked into a lot of fun stuff. And we've had like a 9-month run. And then like I was saying the other day, I was just like, Liam, we got to get back into the lab and try something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, when we get back to LA, we'll set up some rehearsals and just start pressing the buttons again, start pushing ourselves. Because we found success doing this fun thing and it's really fun and we love it. But I don't ever want to get complacent. I don't want to let success make me boring, which I think it does to a lot of people because they just rely on it.
But don't you think they really enjoy it? And there are a lot of people who also enjoys it. Like, why is that dangerous? Or like, and for you?
I think they do it first, but then I think it becomes boring. And I think the whole reason people get into this art form is because it's exciting. It's new and surprising. And if you're not excited and there's nothing new or surprising, then you just have success, which I guess is good if you want your ego validated, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's not exciting. I'm in it for the art of it. It's not the, everybody look at me and say I'm great, So when you're in it for the art, I feel like you almost have an obligation to keep pushing and challenging and questioning and, that worked then, but does that still work now? Is that old? People have seen us do that for 9 months. They still want to see it, and maybe I don't want to see it. So let's do something else because I'm honestly in this art form for me. I'm not here for the audience. I'm doing improv because I love it. It's exciting for me. So what's exciting for me is challenging, questioning, discovering something new, and then trying to make that a success. And once you made it a success, the whole fun of improv is trying to find something new for me, trying to find something new and then make that a success. That journey of taking something and turning it into a successful show is the fun. As soon as it's successful, you can do it for a few months, and then I'm kind of, okay, what now? It's the journey that's the exciting part. So
how did you, Liam, how do you meet minded people then, or like how do you practical like do what you enjoy and not making it. It was so good metaphor for me with the school, like, and it really started to me to think like, why am I doing some kind of improv things that I don't actually enjoy that much?
Yeah, seriously. I think about that too. Over the summer, like my mom got a very scary cancer diagnosis. And so I was thinking like, oh God, like what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like you realize time is limited. And so I'm like, well, I don't want to do anything that I don't want to fucking do. So I'm not going to do the stupid improv classes that I don't like. I'm not going to play with teams that I don't like just because I'm doing it. So I kind of like had to clean house a little bit and like reanalyze like what actually makes
Do you just
me
like
happy.
took some, I don't know, weeks, or when you did, I don't know, or just really introspection, or
It was introspection, but it all happened pretty quickly because I knew I didn't like those things.
Yeah.
I was just doing them because you should, you should get as much stage time as possible. You should be doing this. I'm like, well, if I don't like that, why should I be doing that? I'm going to die someday. And like, why did I spend my precious time doing shit I didn't like?
Yeah.
So I think that's true for all of us. Why would we ever do that?
Yeah.
Just because we're told to, because we're, on the hamster wheel of doing all the things that everybody else says we should be doing rather than what we want to do, which is back to what we started talking about with training centers. It's like discovering your own internal voice and what you want, what gets you excited, what attracted you to this art form in the first place. And holding true to that, I think you'll start to find people who agree with you. It's a lonely road at first because I only met Liam, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And until then, I had worked with some people. We had some crossover. There was some stuff, but a lot of it was just, I kind of didn't have people that agreed with me or that we saw things the same way. I was just kind of doing my own thing. I'd be on this team for a little while. It didn't really work out. I'll take that class. Whatever. But I refused to compromise on what I wanted to do artistically. And then found Liam. We found our friend Chris Alvarado. And the three of us are like locked in.
Is he coaching you?
Yeah,
He's
he's like a director friend. He's really like a creative collaborator. We kind of feel like we kind of all three get together and we like do stuff. It's not really like he coaches us so much. It is like we're all kind of working together on this collective, art cooperative ensemble thing. But yeah, he definitely, he's in the room when Liam and I are doing our performances. And he just gives us some feedback, like, try this, ask some questions. It's very exploratory.
What do you think he would say about your show yesterday? Like, because for me, the note structure can go like, be the opposite of like, yes, it becomes whatever it becomes. But it doesn't have to be like that. So I'm just curious of how he would, again, like how you actually evolve or like develop.
I don't know that I understand the question.
So if Chris were in the room yesterday and he saw your show, what could be if you
What would be his note?
Yeah, I think
he would have loved yesterday's show. What would have been his note? I don't know. Because the thing is even the moments that Liam and I had yesterday were at first, like he and I know each other well enough that like, oh, we're doing a scene right now. It's not really hitting. It's not really the best thing we've ever done. We can just tell, oh, there's not. But because we have 30 fucking minutes, you bring that back later and give it new meaning.
Yeah.
Like we started with the helmet.
Yeah.
And
it was really nice.
Yeah. And exactly. But at first we're like, what is this? Like, I'm just on a helmet on his head.
Right.
Like, is this going anywhere? But then at the end, like, oh, boom.
Yeah.
You kind of can use it later and
but
make
isn't that a skill that you have developed through the training center, like the callbacks, like is put in your backbone in a sense, like as it is as an actor with direction and speaking out loud, and so like as you said, like the fundamentals that we need to practice, like stage presence maybe, and to talk loud, articulate or whatsoever.
Yeah.
Isn't like that a kind of fundamental that you have practiced and therefore you can do that? Like I'm not sure that you're noticing in the moment that, okay, this helmet scene isn't like, what does it mean really? Yes, if you're putting a mental note on it, or if it just pops up in the end when you're taking the bicycle.
Yeah, I'm not taking a mental note of it. Sometimes Liam and I have shows where it doesn't wrap up as nicely as it did last night, and that's okay. But I think keeping it simple and repetitive helps solidify the pattern and creates the world in my brain.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I have that, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to bring the bicycle back at the end.
Yeah.
Like, I totally forgotten about the bicycle.
Yeah.
I was trying to run over the cat.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, we actually just happen to find ourselves in this position where like the van is gone and now we have this kind of the setup for a bicycle. And it's like, oh, of course, bicycle.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it was really a very fun, beautiful moment.
Yeah,
but it was just
discovery. Yeah,
it was discovery. We didn't
simple and discovery. And for us in the audience, also the improvisers, it was clear to me that it was a discover and that callback or connection really suited that so well.
Yeah.
So it made such a nice moment instead of
trying to force it. Like the end of a Herald. The end of a Herald, you just smash the shit together.
Right? Because you sat in a car in the first and then it became by mistake.
Right, because the chair went off to the side.
Exactly. So then it became a bicycle, which was funny per se. So you didn't like put up a new chair or like you...
No, because that's the premise as opposed to the discovery. And then when the audience sees the discovery at the same time the performers do, that's when you get that magic moment.
Yeah.
So
and we see your surprise as well.
Yeah, because it's like...
And then now we understand. So this was a true discovery set. It was very, very nice. And we are wrapping this up, Jaymie. How, like if you gave an advice or improv nugget, I heard a lot like, for me, simplicity and pattern and do what you enjoy. That's my takeaways.
Those are all the right takeaways. That's all I try to do is simple repetition, and then what inspires me, what gets me excited, what's fun for me. And if you don't know those things, then keep exploring until you find stuff, and then pursue that, and don't do any of the bullshit.